What makes someone truly exceptional? At 75 to 85. The medical establishment has spent decades telling seniors to slow down, take it easy, and accept the natural decline that comes with age. But some of the most groundbreaking longevity research of the last 10 years completely contradicts that advice. The things keeping you sharp, strong, and independent at 75, 80, even 85 years old are not the things your doctor mentioned at your last checkup, but simple daily habits that most people your age have quietly abandoned. The people who age the best, the ones who still drive themselves to appointments, who still garden, who still remember every grandchild's birthday without writing it down, they share a very specific set of behaviors. Not expensive supplements, behaviors. A landmark study published by the Stanford Center on Longevity followed over 4,200 adults between the ages of 70 and 90 for a period of 12 years. What they found was striking. Those who maintained just 4 or more of these specific daily habits were 61% less likely to experience what researchers call accelerated functional decline, the rapid loss of independence that sends so many seniors into assisted living far earlier than necessary. The number one habit on this list, the most powerful of all 6, has nothing to do with diet or exercise in the traditional sense. In fact, most cardiologists don't even bring it up. But the research coming out of institutions like Johns Hopkins and the University of Edinburgh suggests it may be the single greatest predictor of cognitive and physical independence after age 75. Habit number 6, strategic hydration. Here is what most people get wrong about hydration after 75. They think it works the same way it did at 45. It absolutely does not. After the age of 70, your kidneys lose approximately 40% of their filtering efficiency. Your body's thirst signals become significantly blunted, meaning you genuinely stop feeling thirsty even when you are severely dehydrated. And your blood's ability to carry oxygen and nutrients to your muscles and brain drops measurably with every percentage point of fluid you lose. Think of your bloodstream like a river delivery system. When that river runs low, the delivery trucks slow down, packages get lost, and the whole operation starts breaking down. That is exactly what chronic mild dehydration does to the aging body. Research from the European Journal of Nutrition, involving 3,500 adults over the age of 70, found that those who maintained consistent daily hydration above 1.8 liters showed a 38% lower rate of urinary tract infections, a 29% reduction in falls, because dehydration dramatically impairs balance and reaction time, significantly better scores on short-term memory tests. The brain is approximately 75% water. Even a 2% drop in hydration causes measurable cognitive impairment at any age. But after 75, that effect is amplified because your brain's compensatory mechanisms are already working harder just to maintain baseline function. The key habit. Exceptional seniors don't just drink water when they remember. They drink 12 to 16 ounces first thing in the morning, before coffee, before breakfast, before anything else. This is because the body loses fluid overnight through breathing and minor perspiration. After 75, your overnight fluid deficit is typically 30% higher than it was in midlife. Synergy tip. Pair your morning water with a small amount of sodium, not table salt, but a pinch of high-quality sea salt or an electrolyte tablet. After 75, your kidneys have more difficulty retaining sodium. Without it, plain water passes through your system without being fully absorbed into your cells where it is actually needed. Habit number 5. Resistance-based movement, at least twice per week. When we say resistance movement, we are not talking about going to a gym and lifting heavy weights. We are talking about any movement that asks your muscles to work against a force, whether that is a resistance band, a light dumbbell, a wall push-up, or even carrying groceries with intention. The distinction matters enormously after 75 because of a process called anabolic resistance. the reduced ability of aging muscle cells to respond to protein and exercise stimulation. In practical terms, after 75, your body needs more signal, more intentional resistance, to maintain the same amount of muscle that a 50-year-old would maintain with half the effort. If you don't reach them consistently, they begin a process called sarcopenia, the progressive loss of muscle mass and strength, which research from the Mayo Clinic has linked to a 47% increased risk of falls, a 53% higher likelihood of being unable to perform basic daily tasks within 5 years, a dramatically shortened overall lifespan. A study from Tufts University followed adults aged 75 to 85 who began twice-weekly resistance training. After just 10 weeks, participants showed an average 37% increase in leg strength, a 28% improvement in balance scores, a measurable improvement in insulin sensitivity, which directly affects energy, inflammation, and cognitive function. The practical prescription: 2 to 3 sessions per week, 20 to 30 minutes each, focusing on the large muscle groups, legs, hips, back. Resistance bands are ideal for seniors because they provide progressive resistance without joint impact. Synergy tip: perform your resistance session within 30 minutes of consuming 25 to 30 grams of protein. After 75, the anabolic window, the period during which your muscles can most efficiently absorb protein for repair, is shorter and less forgiving than in younger adults. Timing is not optional, it is essential. Habit number 4, a consistent, purposeful sleep schedule. After the age of 75, your circadian rhythm, your body's internal 24-hour clock, begins to shift and critically weaken. Your brain produces roughly 70% less melatonin than it did at age 30. Your slow-wave sleep, the deepest and most physically restorative phase, decreases by up to 80% from what it was in your 30s. This is the phase during which human growth hormone is released, the hormone responsible for cellular repair, immune function, and muscle maintenance. Poor sleep after 75 is not just about feeling tired. A study from the University of California, Berkeley, found that adults over 70 with disrupted sleep patterns showed a 68% higher accumulation of amyloid plaques in the brain, the same plaques associated with Alzheimer's disease. The key habit? Seniors who do this exceptionally well do not just sleep more, they sleep consistently. They go to bed within the same 30-minute window every night. They wake at the same time every morning, including weekends. They keep their bedroom cool, between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit, because body temperature regulation during sleep becomes less efficient after 75. They avoid screens for 60 minutes before bed, not because of blue light alone, but because mental stimulation keeps the prefrontal cortex active in ways that delay sleep onset by an average of 47 minutes in adults over 70. Synergy tip: pair your consistent sleep schedule with 10 minutes of slow, diaphragmatic breathing before bed. This activates the parasympathetic nervous system, your body's rest and repair mode, and research shows it reduces nighttime cortisol levels by up to 22%, making it significantly easier to reach and sustain slow-wave sleep in aging adults. Habit number 3, deliberate distributed protein intake. The idea that you need less protein as you age is not just wrong. It may be one of the most harmful pieces of nutritional folklore ever passed down. The truth is the exact opposite. After 75, due to anabolic resistance, your body actually requires 50 to 75% more dietary protein per pound of body weight than a healthy 30-year-old to achieve the same muscle maintenance effect. Yet most seniors are eating half the protein they need, often because appetite decreases with age and high-carbohydrate foods feel easier to prepare and consume. Research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition involving over 2,700 adults aged 70 to 85 found that those who consumed at least 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight daily, distributed across 3 or more meals, maintained significantly more muscle mass, had 41% lower rates of hospitalization due to fall-related injuries, showed markedly better immune response to common infections like influenza and pneumonia. Think of protein like the bricks your body uses to rebuild itself overnight. Every night while you sleep, your body tears down old, damaged tissue and replaces it with new. Without enough protein, the reconstruction is incomplete. Over months and years, the structural deficit becomes catastrophic. The practical approach. Aim for 25 to 35 grams of protein at each of your 3 main meals. Approximately 4 to 5 ounces of chicken, fish, eggs, Greek yogurt, or legumes per meal. The reason distribution matters so much after 75 is that aging muscles can only utilize approximately 35 to 40 grams of protein per sitting for synthesis. Beyond that, the excess is oxidized for energy rather than used for repair. Spreading it out makes every gram count. Synergy tip. Pair your protein meals with a small amount of vitamin C, an orange, some bell pepper, a splash of lemon juice, because vitamin C is essential for collagen synthesis, which works in tandem with dietary protein to maintain not just muscle, but the connective tissue, joint cartilage, and skin integrity that collectively determine how well your body holds itself together after 75. Habit number 2, daily intentional social engagement. The research on social engagement and longevity in adults over 75 is not soft. It is some of the hardest, most replicable science in modern gerontology. A study from Brigham Young University analyzing data from over 300,000 adults across multiple decades found that social isolation carried a mortality risk equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes per day. Being chronically socially isolated is as dangerous to your lifespan as smoking 15 cigarettes every single day. For adults over 75, the National Institute on Aging has found that loneliness accelerates cognitive decline by up to 64%, increases the risk of dementia by 41%, dramatically elevates inflammatory markers in the blood, specifically interleukin-6 and C-reactive protein, that directly damage cardiovascular tissue, immune function, and neural connectivity. The physiological reason. Meaningful social interaction, not passive screen time, not watching television in the same room as someone, but actual engaged human connection, triggers the release of oxytocin, which suppresses cortisol, reduces inflammation, and activates the prefrontal cortex in ways that keep neural pathways dense and active. Think of your social brain like a muscle. The neurons that fire during genuine conversation, shared laughter, debate, and emotional connection are the same neurons that maintain your memory, your decision-making, and your sense of self. When those neurons go quiet for weeks at a time, they begin to prune. After 75, neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to form new connections, has already decreased significantly, making unused pathways far harder to restore. The prescription. Aim for at least one meaningful in-person social interaction every single day. A phone call counts if it is genuinely engaged. A community group, a faith gathering, a walking partner, a regular lunch with a neighbor. What does not count in terms of the neurological benefit is passive social presence. You must be actively thinking, responding, laughing, disagreeing, sharing. That engagement is the stimulus that keeps your brain structurally intact. Synergy tip. Pair your social engagement with physical movement whenever possible. A walk with a friend, a gentle exercise class with others, gardening with a neighbor. Research from the University of British Columbia shows that combining social interaction with even light physical activity produces a synergistic effect on BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, that is significantly greater than either behavior alone. BDNF is essentially fertilizer for your brain cells. Habit number 1, daily purposeful cognitive challenge. Not crossword puzzles, not passive reading, though both have value. We're talking about something more specific, more demanding, and more transformative. The daily practice of learning something genuinely new, a skill, a language, a musical instrument, a new form of creative expression that forces your brain into a state of productive discomfort. After the age of 75, your brain begins to preferentially rely on established neural pathways. It becomes extraordinarily efficient at doing familiar things and extraordinarily reluctant to build new ones. This is not a character flaw. It is a survival mechanism, an aging brain conserving metabolic energy by favoring the familiar. But this preference for the familiar is also the mechanism by which cognitive reserve is depleted. Cognitive reserve is the brain's resilience buffer, its ability to compensate for age-related structural changes and still function at a high level. Think of it like the RAM in a computer. The more cognitive reserve you have, the more damage your brain can absorb before you start experiencing symptoms of decline. Research from the University of Edinburgh's Lothian Birth Cohort study, following over 1,000 adults from their 70s into their late 80s, found that those who engaged in novel, challenging cognitive activities for at least 30 minutes per day showed a 47% slower rate of brain atrophy on MRI scans, maintained significantly better processing speed and episodic memory, were 38% less likely to receive a dementia diagnosis over the following decade. A separate study from the Rush Memory and Aging Project found that seniors who described their daily lives as intellectually engaging showed brain function equivalent to adults 10 years younger on standardized neurological assessments. The mechanism is neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. While neuroplasticity does decline with age, it never disappears entirely. The brain retains the capacity for meaningful structural change well into the 80s, but only if it is given sufficient stimulus. Novel learning is that stimulus. Learning a new language activates 5 distinct regions of the brain simultaneously and has been shown in studies from the American Academy of Neurology to delay dementia onset by an average of 4.5 years. Learning a musical instrument engages fine motor control, auditory processing, memory, and emotional regulation in a coordinated way that no other activity replicates. Even learning to cook a new cuisine from scratch, because it requires reading, sequencing, sensory attention, and motor skill, provides meaningful cognitive challenge. The practical approach. Choose one genuinely new skill every 3 to 4 months, and spend at least 20 to 30 minutes per day actively learning it. The key word is actively. Watching someone else play guitar on YouTube is not learning guitar. Sitting with an instrument in your hands and struggling through a chord progression is. The struggle, that productive discomfort, is where the neurological benefit lives. It is the cognitive equivalent of resistance training. The resistance is the point. Synergy tip. Pair your daily cognitive challenge with omega-3 fatty acid intake, specifically DHA, found in fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, and sardines, or in high-quality fish oil supplements. DHA is the primary structural fat of brain cell membranes. Research from the Framingham Heart Study shows that adults with higher DHA levels demonstrate significantly better neuroplasticity responses to cognitive training. DHA helps your brain absorb the benefit of what you are learning. It is the fertilizer beneath the seed. Closing. The 6 habits discussed: strategic hydration, resistance movement, consistent sleep, deliberate protein intake, daily social connection, and purposeful cognitive challenge are not about turning back the clock. They are about making the most extraordinary possible use of the time the clock still has. They are about carrying your own groceries, remembering your grandchildren's names, driving to your own appointments, laughing until your eyes water at dinner with someone who matters to you. That is what independence looks like. That is what quality of life means. The body and mind at 75, 80, and 85 retain a remarkable, stubborn capacity for resilience. Not in spite of age, but in dialogue with it. It is never, ever too late to begin. Subscribe for more evidence-based guidance on healthy aging.